What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Optimize You. We got a very special episode for you. We're trying something new over here at Optimize You, and we are going to dive into current events. And so you might see a new face here. And if you've been with us since the beginning, he's not a new face, but he is our producer, the man, Nick Dwyer. What is going
Yes,
on,
sir.
brother?
What's going on, guys? Good to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. Nick actually came up with this idea to kind of have an episode where we talk about current events, and then he can pull up some articles based on the things that we're talking about, and we can kind of dive deeper into really the state of the health and fitness industry and all this stuff going on. So we're going to kind of dive into things that are going on right now and our opinions on them. Hopefully this is a little bit more entertaining too of a podcast. And, you know, if this goes well, we want to try to do this on a regular basis, like once a month, to stay up on all of the current stuff going on in the industry. And before we get in though, as always, if you are enjoying the podcast, if you are a new listener, welcome. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes dropping every Tuesday and Thursday. And, you know, if you are enjoying it, like, make sure you just share it with somebody. That's all we really ask. Share it with one person, a friend, family member, somebody who you think could benefit from all of the topics that we've gone into on every episode. And let's get into it. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, brother?
What's up, brother? I'm excited for this one, dude. This is a little bit different than what we traditionally do. And actually, you know what I was thinking is, like, we kind of already do this. This time we're just catching it and recording it. You know, like, we all have conversations with us three, which is great. Stuff that we probably could have recorded before. But yeah, let's dive into it, man. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. So we got first topic here is virtual workouts. So virtual workouts like really became huge during the pandemic, right? Like I know for me, I think certain places didn't necessarily close down their gyms, but I was in Minnesota at the time, my gym was closed, and I ended up buying a bunch more gear to work out with. I bought some adjustable weights. I bought a weight bench, some other things, like whatever I could do to get as good of a workout in from home. But, you know, obviously this spans even just more of that. This is like, you know, I think that there's just tons and tons of extra like virtual like classes that started popping up. And so I'd love to know, Matt, like what's your opinion on that and how beneficial those can be for everybody out there?
Yeah, I think they're a great entry point, right? To be honest, like, there's a very low barrier to entry, meaning like you can just sign up. Why? I mean, you can even go as free as, like, we're looking at Peloton right now, but like you can go as free as just YouTube, right? There's a lot of stuff out there. I myself put a lot of stuff out there too, just for free for YouTube workouts, at home stuff. Especially if you don't have any equipment. Like, so if you're one of those people where you're like, man, I want to go to the gym. And I feel like that's the gold standard. There's so many things that you could do just from a virtual standpoint from literally your house. And I know it's super popular now too, after the whole COVID period, that people actually have at least some equipment at their house. Like, I've seen people, it's more and more popular to get like adjustable dumbbells at your home, at the bare minimum, like a set of bands. I know some people have like one or two just kettlebells, or maybe a kettlebell. Like, again, you don't need equipment, like you can crush it with body weight, but I just love the low barrier to entry to it. And just finding like your favorite online program workouts too, because you're going to find different styles of workouts too, right? Like, we had Peloton pulled up here a second ago. Then we have online fitness workouts. So you're going to have more like HIIT style training if you want to do more conditioning based. And so that's the cool thing. I would say that's probably one of the huge upsides, now that I think about it, is that you can choose the category that you prefer and that fits you and your goals and your lifestyle best by literally just searching, right? Or trying multiple different things. Versus the downside is, if you go into like a gym, it's going to be very like, this is kind of how we're doing things. Like, it's very structured, right? It's very regimented, especially if you have a trainer in there. Now they'll probably set you up with your goals and things like that. But as far as you being like, oh, today I feel like doing a HIIT training workout, or today I feel like working on strength, or today I just want to sweat and do yoga or stretch or whatever. Like, you can like literally search whatever you want. So I think that's a cool part about it. What do you think, man?
Yeah, dude, I love it. And everything that Nick's been pulling up here, like, it seems really reasonably priced. Like, you can buy it. I saw a few of them. They're like $100 for the year. $10 a month, 20
Yeah, this
bucks
one's
a month,
40.
a lot
Yeah.
of different stuff. And they're going to be really just directed towards certain types of goals too. There's Pilates, there's, there's more hit based, there's stuff that's going to have a whole span of different things, like, just resistance training, different types of people. And I am personally a YouTube guy as well. I will,
Yeah.
and this is mostly for yoga. So I do 4 days a week in the gym doing resistance training. And then I do 3 days a week where I'm doing yoga, like recovery based yoga. There are endless amazing people. I actually
Yeah.
go back and forth between like 5-6 different people on YouTube, because they have full, 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute, 50-minute yoga sessions that you can do that are really good, and they're guided, and they're going to, do it with you. And like, there's beginner, there's advanced, there's everything in between. And so like, that's the case for all of these. Like, you don't necessarily even have to pay money, but know that like a lot of these things they'll probably have a free trial for you as well. So you can try it out. Make sure you like the person that is doing the shit, right? Like, I think that's a huge thing. Like, make sure that you
Yeah.
vibe with them. But I love everything about this. I think that this is a really, really a beneficial thing from the pandemic, right? Is that now people are doing this more often. They have the ability to do it from home. It makes like parents, busy ass parents that have children, like, this is going to save you so much time having a virtual workout. Now, also, my opinion is that you have to figure out what kind of person you are. I personally am not somebody who gets as good of a workout in from home. That's just me. I get one when I have a good gym, like a full gym. I get to the gym. I seem to really just crush it when I get to the gym, right? I get, you're already there. You drove there, whatever. Like, I'm away from home. Might as well fucking crush it. Right. And I just love having like the barbell and the access to the different machines and the access to a wide range of dumbbells, just spanning as high as I need them. Because I do have, like, at my house right now, I have dumbbells that adjust up to 55 pounds. I have a weight bench. I have tons of bands and all of that. So I can get an amazing workout in from home. I just like something about being able to go hit deadlifts and back squats and, RDLs and reverse lunges and, heavy bench and like these different things, like, that really gets me going and allows me to get a better workout. And so I would just challenge people to use this as you need it. Like, if it's something that really, really works for you and you can crush workouts at home, amazing. Find something that works best for you within the millions of different options there are out there, or the free options on YouTube. And then at the same time, if you're somebody who you just know that when you work out from home, you kind of half-ass it, you skip it halfway, like you don't always get it even in, then maybe you're somebody who needs a gym and needs to get out, or, not even just a gym. Like, there's tons of different options out there that aren't necessarily like do it yourself, right? They have classes out there. My gym, I'm at EOS Fitness here in Phoenix, and it's like a very cheap gym. It's less than $30 a month. And they have classes there too. Like, you could do yoga, you could do a HIIT class, you could do like a core class. Like, there's a million different types of classes there. So that's kind of my view is there's use it as a tool. And if it works for you, just go all in on it. Like, I think that's it's awesome.
Yeah, and also like pick whatever you feel like you're going to be consistent with I think is the biggest thing. Like, we're talking about so many different options here. And you're also going to see a price point that's going to be a lot lower too. We even talked about free, right? But if you sign up for one of these things, I'm looking at one right now, 119 for the year, right? You're looking at 10, 15, $20 a month, maybe, for some of these subscriptions that are like low barrier to entry, that are going to give you access to so many different things. So my recommendation would be like, what's the thing that you're going to stick to consistently that you can do day in, day out, week in and week out? Like, just see if you can stick to it first versus like, trying to do some elaborate program, super in depth, or you're trying to go from 0 days all the way to like 6-7 days a week working out. Like, just see what you can be consistent with a couple times a week, and then just build little by little. And then that way you'll make sure that it sticks, it's sustainable, and you can do it for a long period of time. And Alex was mentioning, you were mentioning like going into the gym too. That's going to be tough to beat. I think that's one of the things, like, when the pandemic hit, people were like, oh, in-person gyms are going to go away. I think those things are like recession proof. Like, obviously we had to deal with COVID and everything, but there's something about like community, being in person, that's hard to beat, man. Just atmosphere is huge. And so you guys that are experienced already know this. So I think the in-person gym has its place. But if you're just starting out or you need to fall back on something, you're like, man, I'm on a time crunch today and I just need to do something at the house. If you have some equipment like Alex had, some adjustable dumbbells, some bands, a bench, like whatever, like if you have anything, I think it's a great fallback plan too, or kind of like emergency or worst case scenario. If you're somebody who already goes to a gym and then wants to utilize kind of remote coaching or online workouts as like a backup or a filler, kind of worst case scenario.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys, is there anything that you, when you're looking at like one of those programs, whether it's for yourself or like someone else, is there anything you'd like recommend against or like, I guess, be cautious with when you're looking at one of those?
I would personally just say, like, something that just came to mind when you said that is, like, make sure that it's not just a straight hit thing. I think like that's so popular these days with people just doing hit like 5 days a week, right? And just crushing their bodies. And I think that hit has its place. I think cardio has its place, all of that stuff. But if you're constantly just crushing yourself, and a lot of times what I see with these kind of people too, not to generalize, is that they're not eating enough either, right? They're trying to burn as much calories. That's their goal. And so I think that is what I would say is, like, try to make sure you're vibing with the person who's doing the classes. Like, that's what I look for in yoga when I'm looking at the people that I go. So I go through, like, this one I like is breathe and flow. Like, they're chill. Like, they have some more advanced stuff on there for yoga. This guy I found recently, though, Yoga with Tim, just a fucking sick vibe on this guy, right? Like, this guy is just, he's like chill as a cucumber. And I love it. I love it. I do a lot of recovery yoga, but vibe with the person. And just, I don't know. I just think that hit is just way overused by a lot of people personally.
And it's popular too, right? It's like the easy thing to get into because you're going to be out of breath, you're going to sweat. So like the other thing is just like have your North Star of what your goal is and what you want to achieve. If your goal is just to be an overall well shaped, you're looking for something that's going to make you sweat and that's fun for you, like great. But if your goal is to like build strength and you're just doing hit classes, you're going to be chasing your tail. You're going to be super frustrated. So you have to have kind of at the top of your mind of like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do? Am I just trying to get better at cardio and conditioning and I want to sweat and I want to breathe? Like a hit class is going to be really good for you. You're going to feel accomplished. But if your goal is like, man, I want to focus on building muscle and I want to get stronger and I want to increase my metabolism and I want to burn body fat, like I'd force you or like encourage you to go more into like a strength program, a strength protocol. And so kind of pick what you want and what your goals are. If you're just getting started, you're like, I need to do anything, try different things and you'll figure out which one you like the best too. That would be my advice.
Oh, and like one thing I wanted to mention here is, so I have a lot of clients that are, maybe up north, right? They're in like the northern states and now it's starting to get colder and they're talking about it's harder to get out and go on the walks, right? And it's not to say that you can't bundle up, but I've like advised people to use like these walking workouts sometimes as well. Like there's like walking workouts where you can get like 5,000 steps in, low impact, maybe not going to crush you. Then there's stuff that's a little bit higher end too, that's going to be a little bit more like intense. But those are some things too that you can utilize throughout the winter months. That's going to kind of be like a virtual class, but it's going to be like a virtual walking with me class, right? Like where you don't have to necessarily go outside and every day and go on these walks, although you can. And I that's kind of what I would always do when I was up in Minnesota, is just bundle up and go on the walks. But there are some days that are brutal, right? And so like if you're not feeling it, or, I have a client that slipped on ice last year and like, she's a little bit like scared on that side of things. That's like, okay, like, well, let's make sure we're not going out when it's icy, right? Like let's stay in and let's get like a walking workout in. Let's go to the mall or a store and walk around there, right? There's some other options out there. And I just thought maybe this was a good opportunity to throw that in.
For sure. So let me ask you this. Have you had any of these wearables? Have you tried any of these? Which ones have you tried before, if any?
Whoop. So I was on Whoop for like
me too.
a year and a half. I was on Whoop and I really liked it, man. I was a huge fan of it, but me, you guys know, I'm a little crazy. I got a little obsessed with the numbers at a certain point. And so like I would kind of live and die by the recovery numbers, which I think that these things are amazing, right? They're really good. one thing to understand is that the calorie numbers are not going to be right on, right? Like the calorie numbers can be way off on how many you're burning, right? Because a lot of people look at that. And what I kind of got obsessed with was just those, like the HRV score and like the recovery percentage and stuff like that. And so like I would almost listen to that more than I would my body. Or some days I would feel good, but then I'd see that my recovery was way down. And then I would like almost start to feel like it was. Right. And so that was just me where I kind of got obsessed with the numbers of it. I think they are really beneficial though. Like Aura Ring, I know people are really, really huge on Aura Ring. And I think that the most, like why I would go back to these things is sleep. I think that that's the big, big thing for me, is that you can start to track your sleep with a lot of these things. And that's, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, one of the most beneficial things you can do for your health, for your energy levels, for really just about anything, fat loss, is to improve your sleep and get to where you're getting a bunch of quality sleep. But do you currently wear one, or have you in the past as well?
I had Whoop as well. So I had Whoop for about a year. And same thing, like I would recommend and I'd encourage people to use these things as a tool, because they can drive you crazy, right? Like you can live and die by it. Even if you're like an ounce of competitive, you'll start living by the data that it's reading you. And depending on what you're using it for, it can like literally drive you crazy. So I always encourage people to like make sure you're in control and that thing's not controlling you, and you're just using it literally as it's intended to be a tool. And if you can remember that, like keep grounding yourself in that, these things can be great. Where you start to run into trouble, or where people start to run into trouble, is they say, for example, you're tracking your caloric intake and you're working on fat loss and you're working on being a little bit healthier version of yourself, and you're attempting to put yourself in a caloric deficit. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're consuming 2,000 calories, and your fitness tracker says that you burned 500 calories, right? And so that's where it starts to get a little sticky, is because that fitness tracker is using an estimation. It can't literally tap inside your body, know exactly how you metabolized and burned fat for fuel, what energy sources your body used, how many calories you actually burned, right? So it's using an estimate. And although it can be consistent with its estimate, the mistake that you can run into is replacing what it says and then being like, oh, I burned 500 calories, so I should be at 1,500 now technically on the day, which means I can add an additional 500 calories, right? And I know people do that. They do it based on what their fitness tracker says, and then they're wondering why they're gaining weight or why they're staying stagnant in their processes, because they're like living and dying by that number that their tracker is saying that they technically burned in a workout. And just know that like that's not an accurate way to replace the calories that you burned and be able to eat those in addition, right? And so I know that's a big popular one too on MyFitnessPal. So I always tell people, if you guys are using MyFitnessPal, again, try not to add exercise in there. It's going to use estimations. And then try not to connect your steps to MyFitnessPal too, because sometimes what it'll do, again, it's going to use an estimation based on how many steps you walked. And it's going to say, oh, you walked X amount of steps, which means you burned X amount of calories. And then it adds it on top of your total. Right. And so people didn't realize that they were doing that for like the longest time. So when they came into my program, I had to make sure that when they downloaded MyFitnessPal, make sure steps are not connected, because it's going to give you a lot of estimations. There's so much gray area here. And it'll leave you frustrated. It'll leave you stuck. You'll just be asking, why am I gaining weight when I'm in a weight loss phase, or when I'm trying to lose body fat? And, well, my tracker says I can eat this much. And, so that's where you start to get into trouble.
Yeah. And literally on that side of things too, people will eat less food when they're not working out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They'll like have like where they just, and that's a slippery slope too, because we want to make sure that we're eating enough and we're making sure we're eating the same each day, around the same each day. If you have like a number, if your number is 2,500 calories, right? That's what you're trying to eat. Don't eat 2,000 on the days that you aren't working out, right? Just because you're not moving as much. Those are recovery days, right? Food's going to help us recover on top of all the other things that we talk about, from sleep to stress management to like getting on walks can help you recover, stretching, yoga, all that stuff, water. But like, I just wanted to throw that in. And really there's like, Nick's throwing up a lot of different options here. There are tons and tons of different options out there. I don't know a lot about all of these. I do know, Whoop Aura Ring are some of the common ones and some of the ones that I've looked into. But there's going to be ones from, like Apple Watch is one that's going to a lot of people wear, right? Or like
Fitbit,
Android.
Garmin. There's so many.
Yeah, there's tons of them. So just do your research on it. Figure out what you need or what you want. I would challenge people, if you are gonna to get into it. I think one of the most beneficial things is to just be able to track your sleep. And I know that's why I know Aura Ring and Whoop are two big ones that really they focus heavily on that sleep. And so
sleep.
That's good.
Yeah, sleep, and then use them for your step tracking too. If you're keeping track of your steps, they're great for that. Like, but if you're using them to dictate like how much food you should eat based on what it estimates that your calories are burned, like stay away from that. That's a whole different rabbit hole to go down. But if you're using it for like what Alex said, you want to try to keep track and improve on your sleep. You want to accumulate and you want to keep your total daily energy expenditure in consideration with the amount of steps that you're taking. Like for those things, they're very accurate. They're very good because the sleep is going based off your heart rate and the steps is going based off a pedometer inside your technology. So those things are going to be fairly accurate. However, those things can't see inside your body and how it's operating. So when we're talking energy expenditure, calories specifically, like try to stay away from that. If you are going to use it from a caloric standpoint or energy burned, just know like, okay, when I do about an hour long workout, according to my tracker, it says I burn 500 calories. So, you can use that as a barometer, meaning like, okay, even though it may not be 500 calories, if it says 500 calories and I feel like I exert myself a little bit more, I went a little bit longer than an hour today, you can correlate the higher calorie burn to, okay, I put more effort in, I probably worked out a little bit longer today. And you can use it as a reference point from that standpoint. But to live and die by it, you're going to drive yourself crazy. It's a huge gray area when it comes down to energy consumed versus energy burned. So I would stay away from that part of it. But there are great things like we're talking about. So you could use those to your leverage.
I was going to ask you guys, because I've been looking into them, and I only look into Whoop and Aura because like all I really care about is like the recovery / like sleep score side of things. Have you guys looked into Aura? Like if someone was looking into both of them, do you know the difference or no?
I was gonna say I've had clients that have Aura and they love it, and I will say it's pretty damn accurate too. Like based on what it reads and then how they feel. Of course, okay. We know from Alex and I wearing Whoop, like we know how that goes too. Like you even mentioned before, like if it says a bad sleep score and like like your recovery's kind of shit, you almost like trick yourself into mentally like immediately feeling like that too, right? So. But the things that I've heard about the Aura Ring, I haven't tried it personally, but I've had clients that have it. And then I think I want to say Jason had it too, but they like people kind of swear by it. Like it's pretty accurate.
Did you feel the same thing with the Whoop, where like you could kind of notice like if it was a low score, you're like you were actually feeling like shit? I know you said you tricked yourself into it sometimes, but did you see like a correlation there?
A lot of times I did. Yeah. I don't know if Alex, did you? Like I for sure, like it would be like, especially if you had like alcohol and you slept like shit, like it would show that you slept like shit. There was no like surprise there. Now to what degree, and it does give you like the breakdown of your REM cycles, your different sleep cycles too, which is really cool. But again, I think it comes down a lot to like use that with a grain of salt in terms of like knowing that you need to improve on that thing, whatever it is. But don't like live and die by it, and don't let it determine and like decide the outcome of your trajectory for that day. Like, oh, don't just write it off as like, oh, my sleep's completely shit, so I'm going to operate like shit today. It's like, no, use it as a tool to be like, okay, that's where I need to improve at. I can still operate and function today, at a high level. It may not be optimal, but otherwise you're going to discourage yourself.
Yeah. And I think for me, the Whoop was really beneficial in terms of, and I did notice like that's where I really started to understand how much alcohol affects your body. Cause it literally was insane. You'd have a few drinks and your sleep would be terrible. And then I would get a blackout drunk and I would be at like a 0 recovery score. Like it was literally insanity. Like
it's pretty accurate in terms of that, dude, for sure.
And it takes a few days, right? Like it's like, even if you're not drinking for a few days, like you'll see that your sleep score will still be like not that good. Like it'll take a little bit of time. And so it is kind of a wake up call there with certain choices. You'll see like certain choices. Oh, ate a binge eat and now my sleep was terrible. Oh, I drank a bunch of alcohol and my sleep was terrible. Or I did this. And, like you kind of can get a good correlation between it. One thing I did want to touch on is you were talking about the calorie side of things. And what I did use it as it was a good tool in the calorie side of things, as long as you're not attached to the calorie burn, because you're going to see a correlation between like the app. For me, it was way out, or Whoop was way off on the calorie burn for me, like based on like my maintenance calories, right? I know what it is, and I knew what it was back then. And it would tell me like, oh, it was like 1,000 less, right? Like you burned 1,000 less. And I was like, well, if that was the case, I'd be gaining weight like a motherfucker, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so like, I kind of knew that, oh, if it was way up, like say like it would be like generally around like 3,000 is what it would tell me on a regular day. And then if it was like 3,700, I knew I overexerted myself that day, right? Like I did a lot that day. And so like that would kind of give me a little bit more feedback. And I'm like, okay, maybe I want to like tone it back the next day, or like it allows people who maybe aren't in tune to their body, I think, to have something to help them be more in tune to their body. Because there is something there, like that HRV score is a huge thing for recovery. And so that is something to keep in mind. But I would just say like you and me both said, like if you're really competitive, it's easy to buy into it when you don't really feel bad. Like and like there is something to just like feeling out your body in being able to not have to worry about something telling you feel like shit. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's just where it comes from me.
For sure. So community building, right? Like and this can be in a total, opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of when you think about community. I think community, I coach CrossFit and did CrossFit forever, and probably the thing that they're most well known for and that they're very strong at is community building. And so like being able to be in atmospheres, environments where there is groups of people that are like-minded, I will say this, like you will show up more frequently. Your adherence will drive up a lot higher. You will consistently feel more motivated just by being around a community of like-minded people. And that could be in the gym, yes, but like even I'm thinking back to experiences that we had with my past gyms where we would do stuff like Thanksgiving morning tradition. We'd always do a morning hike with the entire gym, like everybody from the gym. Thanksgiving morning, we'd all go on a hike. Like that was one thing that we did. We had a lot of competitions that we would do as a community. We'd have barbecues. We'd go out like to the beach and do stuff. Like, so you get to know people, and it was an opportunity for like clients to get to know and see the other side of coaches and that they're real people. And so you kind of build that relationship with the people in your community. And it allows you to be held responsible more so than if you were to do something on your own. So I think the community, or the power of community, is so crucial. I even try to create the tough thing is, we talked about online today, we talked about remote, but still being able to create a presence and have an online community, like whether it's our Facebook group, whether it's a chat thread, whatever it is, so that you can see that other people are going through the same challenges as yourself in the process, is going to help a lot, especially for those who are just getting started. I think that's why, like, subconsciously, I think on January 1st, when everybody wants to start, they know that all the newbies, including themselves, are going to do something, right? And like take that foot and take that step forward. And knowing that everybody else in the world is also doing it with them, I think they feel comforted, right? Like that's a comforting feeling of going like, okay, I'm not doing this by my own. I got a community of like-minded people here who are also out of shape like myself. And we're all going to start on January 1st. Like there's something to be said about community. I think it's super powerful.
Yeah. And I think, I don't have a ton of experience with this, like but I see like kind of from the outside looking in, I have friends, and obviously I know you have been deep in the CrossFit space, and it seems like a lot of people who are into CrossFit are into these type of group fitness classes where they see the same people there all the time. Mm-hmm. Like they become almost their best friends are within the gym, right? And I think that's a really cool thing where in a time when for the last 3 years or so, connection has been hard to come by for a lot of people, in a time where remote work is a lot more popular, right? Where you can, I know for me, like my tendencies in the past have been to isolate, right? Like, and I think that goes towards, I've worked remote for the last 3-4 years, right? And that's like you got to force yourself to get out. And so like having a community like this within CrossFit, within group fitness classes, whatever that may be, twerking classes. That's I've heard of like you got twerking classes. I've heard of people taking strip, not the strip, pole
like
dancing, classes. Yeah. It's probably a good workout. There was one time when I went to a bar and there was a pole there and I was super drunk. Now this was like deep into the night.
Tell me you got up there.
Oh, I got up there and I tried to do that move twice. I tried to do the move where you like try to catch the pole with your feet. Fucking slammed my back on the ground. Thought I was gonna have to get
you didn't feel it
there. Yeah, I didn't feel it at all. I tried it again. Like that's how, but that's not a smart idea. Don't do that. But those, I haven't heard of twerking classes. That's interesting. But I can imagine that'd be a good workout.
Yeah,
it says it's like a trend to dominate 2023. That's what this article is.
To dominate.
Do you see this one up here? 75 soft.
75 soft, yeah.
That's a good one. Watching Netflix for 75 straight days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is it not working out for 75 days? Just finding a group of people who don't want to work out, who are like boycotting January 1st, and they're just like, "Hey,
it's just basically 75 hard, like, but not that hard." Is what
not as ridiculous. Okay. All right, so it's only one 45-minute workout. 1 day of recovery. You can only drink on social occasions.
So it's kind of like, just being.
It's like half of 75 hard, but like still 75 days.
Some looser rules. Yeah.
I like it.
That's good. It gets people doing something, right? I think that's like that whole, like just moving every day is so key. Where I've always encouraged people to like make sure that walking is just a staple of everyday life, right? I think that's a huge thing where, people will like work out 3 days a week and they'll do absolutely fucking nothing on other days. And that's not really beneficial. At least you're doing the 3 days a week, but like if you're sitting on your ass, like you're kind of losing progress at that point. So I think just continuing to move, but this is good stuff. Like that kind of goes to show there's a lot of different, you can get a twerking class. You can do a pole dancing class. There's some pretty interesting stuff out there that you can try. And I'll say you won't see me at a twerking class, but that's super interesting. I guess
unless you take up drinking again, you'll be front row, bro.
Like, oh my god,
yeah.
I'll just take it just to take the twerking class just to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of Hydrox? I feel like I've seen this recently.
Hydrox is cool, man. They're starting to blow up, dude. Like they said the numbers on it the other day were like, essentially it's a functional fitness thing, like it's HIIT training, really. It's like a version of CrossFit, basically.
Is it online or is it in person?
No, they have in-person events. Like I think but they're, from the talk that I heard the other day, it's like they're making them bigger to be more like on the Tough Mudders kind of platform and just like be massive. And they're just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think because they have the difference, and this is me looking from the outside in, I don't know too much about it, but the main difference that I saw was like Hyrox is it's CrossFit, but minus the complexity of like the barbell movements. I haven't really seen barbell. I could be totally wrong, but I haven't seen barbell movements in there, which is going to draw a whole different crowd in there, because a lot of people don't do the CrossFit side of things because they like the competitive aspect of it. But there's so much technicality with like the Olympic lifts that people kind of stay away from it, right? And they just don't want to get injured. But like with Hyrox, it's like, you still have wall balls, you're still going to have a rower, you're going to have ski ergs, you're going to push sleds, like you're going to do kettlebell stuff, dumbbell stuff, like you're going to do all the things minus the complexity and skill and technicality with the barbell doing the Olympic lift. So I think that's why it draws a huge crowd, man. It's because like it opens up this, the barrier to entry is a lot lower now, because people are just like, hey, I'm in phenomenal shape, but I don't know how to technically lift a barbell or like move weight from A to B. So it's like, that's a skill. And so if people haven't been well versed in that skill, versus you could take like an athlete from something, or somebody who's like a triathlete, and you can get them, introduced to moving some weights, from point A to point B, and the the technical aspect of it is very low, like you're going to get a lot of people to want to volunteer and compete in that, which is pretty cool. So I think that's why they're exploding.
I like this list. I mean, the stroller thing too. Like I see women out pushing the stroller, like running. That's
Yeah,
a sick workout. Like
for sure.
that's impressive. I love when I see that out like
All
on
the
a walk.
cougs
Bring
out
the
there.
babies with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. Like
Just on the coug run.
Yeah, there you go. Jazzercise,
Yeah, dude.
that's basically hit.
Real quick on the 75 soft thing, it popped into my head as we were going off the topic. I was literally thinking about this today. I was like, I want to do something. I want to do 75 hard, but I don't want to do like crazy shit that I'm not going to end up sticking to. And I thought of like 75 soft in my head. And now I'm kind of pissed that it's actually a thing.
Now they got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You could
dude,
do
that's a
75
sign.
super soft, you know, like just
75 flaccid. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you could do it. That's a sign though that you got to do it, man. If it popped up in your head, like shit.
it's good. I think that the whole 75 hard thing, I've tried and failed a few times on that. And I don't really have any interest in going back to it. I think it's it really is a mindset thing, right? I think that even Andy Frisella talks about that. It's a mindset thing. People use it as like a fitness thing to lose weight. That's more of a side effect to it. And I think that the whole discipline, like getting the discipline of telling yourself you're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F for 75 straight days is like super duper beneficial. And I think people can build on that. Like even like just set your own fucking shit up, right? Like I know that like people will they'll talk shit about that, but like I think like the whole thing is just finding what works for you. And so like if there's like 5 things, like I currently have a sheet. I literally just wrote down 5 things that make me feel my best, and I'm on day like 17 of doing them all every day, right? And it's stuff that what I did is I kind of went through the process and I was like, okay, like some sort of exercise every day, right? Like, and that is 4, like that's why I do 4 workouts a week and then 3 yoga sessions. So those are what I'm talking about for me. I do like gratitude in the morning. That's one of them. I do a 30 minutes of walking, and what it started out as is 45 minutes. But what I figured out is like when I'm super duper busy, like I was this last Friday through Tuesday, like there was a few days in there where it was like stressful to get that 45 minutes of walking in. So I was like, okay. And this is just an example for people out there. It shouldn't be that stressful. I put it back to 30 minutes and I'm like, I'm going to try to get 45. That's my goal. But just knowing like, if there's the crazy fucking days out there, 30 minutes is fine. Like that's cool. And then reading 15 minutes and then doing some sort of like nighttime routine, stretching, stuff like that. And so like, I almost have kind of just done that myself, where it's like, I just figured out, and I've been having a lot of conversations with my clients recently too, where like they're like, some of my clients are starting to figure out what really works best for them. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like this, like you're figuring out like how you roll, like, cause we're all different people, right? Like we're all different people. We all have different things that make us tick. We all have different things that help us feel our best. And so if you can find those things and create non-negotiables within your day, then you're going to really set yourself up for a lot of success going forward. You're creating your own lifestyle. Like it doesn't have to, you don't have to look at these fucking, like some of these losers out there who are just like preaching that there's one way to do it. And, and just like think that you have to do it that way. It's not like that's stupid. Don't listen to them. And we're going into fitness coaching. So like one-on-one fitness coaching. And Matt, I'll leave it to you for this to start this one off.
Yeah, online fitness coaching specifically too. So this is obviously right up our alley here. So to kind of give you perspective, I've been coaching since officially like certified coaching since 2011, I think. And then, doing internships with strength and conditioning programs before that since 2009. So a couple of years before that, which up until 2020 was all in person. So 100%, whether it was group coaching classes, one-on-one clients, baseball players, athletes, whatever, it was all in person. Right. And so now we have this thing where some of us had to make pivots who were already in the profession to do this online. And some of us stayed there, which was myself. That's what happened to me, is like we had to pivot because COVID. And I just saw the demand there online, not only the demand, but how much you could help somebody for them. And it was more cost effective too. So it was a win-win. So it was a win-win for both sides of the party. So if I would say to somebody who's looking from the outside in, or they're looking to get something, started with something, or they're considering an online coach or a personal trainer, I'll tell you right now, unbiased opinion here. Like if I was on the outside and I was this person looking for some coaching, I would 100% look for an online coach. And the reason for it is because you're going to get more from the online coaching program. Of course, it has to be somebody that like, and trust, or somebody that's already gone through the program that you could speak to as a referral. But you're going to get more from the online programming than you will from the in-person stuff, right? In person, when I coached people, technically by law, we weren't allowed to give nutrition advice and talk about nutrition. It was specifically the physical side of things, which, if you know, or you've been in this area before, the things that are really going to drive the needle are the nutrition piece. If you go online, you can pay either around the same or even sometimes less. My prices are actually less than my in-person prices, right? For my online coaching. And I'm able to deliver more. So I'm able to deliver a nutrition piece to it, mindset. Yes, we got the physical side of things with customized programming. You still have that piece and you're still being held accountable. But man, there's just so much more value for not only the coach from a business perspective, meaning like, okay, yes, I'm charging this person less than I would in person, but I can deliver them more value. And if you're on the other side of the coin and you're the client, you're like, I'm paying less than I would for an in-person one-on-one session, like 3, 4, 5 times a week. When you get to a month, that's like, $5,000, close to four to $5,000, versus it could be a lot less than that. For an online service where you're getting access to customized programming, which you would in person, yes, but you also get the nutrition aspect of it, and you're still being held accountable, plus all the things that fall in between there as well, and access to message 24/7 too when you have questions. So that's things that are missing from the in-person space that I saw, that the voids are filled when you move online. So you get a lot more bang for your buck online. I know on the surface, it kind of sounds like, oh, well, how can I be productive or have success if I don't have the coach in person? It's like, you're still being held accountable, just digitally. Right. And so you could yield far better results too, from a client standpoint, when you choose to go online, because so many more attributes are included in your process, not just working out for 45 minutes to an hour, most of which are sometimes, like, what do you call them? Like therapy sessions. If somebody went through like a bad, a bad week or a bad day, they're just dumping everything on you as a coach. And so it turns into a therapy session versus like working on, lifting heavy shit. So you just get more online than you would in person. That's my perspective on it.
Yeah. And I mean, we did a podcast on this as a topic, and so I probably won't go too deep into it, but I think all you said was awesome there. It's great perspective, especially from somebody who's been in the actual personal training in person space. Is great feedback. I would just say to really watch who you're getting involved with, because anybody can become a nutrition coach, an online coach. I've heard of people that are doing it, just they lost like 20 pounds and they're in good shape, and like it's like that's cool, but like there should be some sort of like certifications and different things that you're doing, like schooling wise, not just, hey, I lost 20 pounds myself, I'm going to help you do it. Cause like the thing is like what I think the big benefit of online coaching is like the customization of it. Like if people are cookie cutter and just doing what worked for them, like that's not beneficial. You got to be able to read between the lines of like what somebody's done in the past, what their lifestyle is currently, like what their goals are. Like everything combines to a completely different program for certain people than other people, right? Like, and there's going to be similarities there. There's going to be similarities, but the way that somebody's going to be able to buy in is going to be different, completely different than another person. And so it's kind of finding that and making sure that whatever you are doing is sustainable for you, because a lot of people will throw the kitchen sink at you too, right? They'll throw everything at you, like 7 different things, or like maybe they were able to handle 5, 6 different things at the start, and so then they think that you should be able to, when maybe you have a family and 3 kids and you're working 2 jobs or whatever it may be, like whatever craziness is going on within everybody's life, then like you're going to need to be able to work with somebody who can customize accordingly. So really be careful of who you get involved with. And like Matt said, make sure you know, like, and trust them. Also, if you want a lot more information on this, we did an episode on just coaching in general and how you can pick the right coach for you. And we went deep into a lot of this stuff. And so I would say, what is the next topic? Is it social media influencers? Is that what we wanted to talk
Yes.
about?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, because you said something about people going through their own transformation and then just immediately becoming a coach, which I don't think there's a problem with that, but I think it's important that, like, when someone does go through that transformation and they're gonna coach people, they're kind of like, all right, I'm gonna help some people for free. I'm gonna try to get more experience. Like, I'm gonna get into getting certifications, stuff like that, instead of just acting like you know everything because you've done it for yourself. And I feel like since COVID hit, a lot of people had transformations because everyone had more time and stuff like that. And I feel like that's probably why we're seeing so many people become coaches. And then that kind of leads into like fitness and social media. I feel like everyone got on, we started seeing influencers pop up because now they're trying to be coaches because they've had that transformation, which is great. But I think it adds a lot of complexity to like online coaching as a whole.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I don't know fucking shit. Like I think I realized that like there's so much shit out there. Like in that, like we've gone through so many certifications, right? We've gone through so much time, put so much time in, and we don't know anything. Like, and then you kind of have people that come in here that just like they went through a transformation. Like what you said, Nick, is amazing, but it's like you can't just assume you know everything because you never will know everything.
Yeah. Dude, I had people reaching out to me during that whole exactly what you were talking about, Nick, and people that I know had full-time jobs, have nothing to do with health and fitness or have never been certified. And there's no knock against them, but they saw the sexiness of like being able to coach online, the freedom of it, like how much money is in it and you could potentially make. And so like people were asking me like, how do they get started? Right. Because and that's just from like my network of people that I know personally, like that would reach out to me through social media that I've been friends with for a long time. And they were asking me how to get started as a coach. Right. And they would send me like, oh, I like this person. And it would be like some influencer, right? Like it would be a girl that just like showing her tits and like, basically wearing nothing and like doing these stupid ass workouts. And I'm like, I would have to explain to them and, without being rude or disrespectful, I'd be like, man, that's a question for if you really resonate with that influencer or you want to do what they're doing or you feel like you can be successful doing that, you should probably reach out to them, ask them, knowing damn well in my head that person has a whole marketing strategy behind them. They're putting as little clothes on as possible. That's an influencer side of things, not an online coach that is going to help you change your health and your longevity and your sustainability and help you change your life. Right. So there's two totally different aspects there. There's the influencer and then there's an actual coach who can yield results consistently time and time again. Who actually is educated, who knows their shit and can help you impact your life. And so I think people were getting those two things confused. Is like they wanted to get into it for the hype of all the benefits, the tip of the iceberg stuff that comes along with it. So they saw the influencer side, and that's why the market's flooded now, right? And so to your point, somebody loses 20 pounds for the first time, and now all of a sudden they go to coach people and they're like, oh shit, this isn't easy. Like this is tough. I actually have to know my shit. Whatever worked for me doesn't necessarily work for this person. Right. And so they start to run into roadblocks. So I think eventually like the people who don't belong will weed themselves out just by, it's tough. It's not easy. Like, so they'll look at the tip of the iceberg and be like, oh, it's super cool. Like you can kind of work from wherever. You could just coach people remotely. You can charge high prices. Like, yeah, that's all the sexy stuff, but you actually have to coach people and get results. Like you have to actually do the thing. And so that's why I think people will just naturally weed themselves out.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like there is so many these influencers out there, like on YouTube and on social media. It is what I personally think is people get it really misconstrued about what they're actually doing because they're not actually telling you what they're doing, right? Like, you get a lot of these guys like that they're not even transparent about the fact that they're taking steroids. and like so they can recover so much quicker than the normal person, right? Or like and so it's frustrating, you know, because it's just they don't know really anything. They just go in the gym and you know they eat relatively good, and you can get away with a lot more, right? You don't have to. And then somebody else, then they sell their fucking workout programs, and people wonder why they don't look anywhere near like this person because they're still saying they're natural. Like it's like why is it such
Yeah.
a like it's not so many
Yeah.
people like they don't actually like they're not honest like still Mike O'Hearn to this day. I love Mike O'Hearn. There's a lot of the stuff that I've actually got some really good exercises from the guy. The guy is a fucking tank.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
sure.
a tank. But for anybody to believe that guy's natural is absurd. He's huge. Incline bench is like 450. Like I don't think like it's just absurd like what this guy does. And it's there's just and he just continues to claim that he's natural.
This guy.
That's funny you say that. I just saw a video of him. Do you know Kenny KO? He does like the natty or not thing.
Yeah.
And he gave the most like political, like he looked like he was trained like a politician. Like the way he answered it was so like he just confused the hell out of everyone over a question of like, are you taking steroids or not? And he just like asked all these crazy questions.
Yeah.
I could pull it up in a second if you want.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, bro, is like people will sell like workout programs, or you'll even see like on social media, like an ab workout, like some crazy shit that somebody's doing and the dude's got abs, and the workouts that he's showing you to do weren't required for him to get the abs that he has. It just looks cool, right? Like, and so people get sucked in. It's like, oh, I got to do these crazy knee tucks and, you know, throw this medicine ball over my head and catch it behind my head and like, you know, do some leg lifts with it. It's like, for one, the chances of general people even doing exercise like that are so slim. But for two, that person didn't do those exercises to yield the outcome that they have, right? Like they just did something that looks super sexy, looks cool, looks attractive, gets eyeballs on it. And so it's very deceiving. And so you have these people like trying to do these crazy ass fucking exercises that don't serve a purpose, that are just look cool, that are super flashy. And it's like, just take it back. If that's you watching these videos and you're confused, like take it back to the fundamentals. Like if you're watching those like core videos, for example, and you're like, oh, I got to do these crazy leg lifts and like flip these plates on my shins and like catch them in an L sit. Like you don't got to do any of that shit. Lift heavy stuff, lift often, change what your nutrition's like, focus on your sleep, hydrate, like, you know, take your body fat percentage down, build some muscle. And I promise you, eventually, if you are willing enough, your abs will pop through eventually at some point. You don't have to do some crazy exercises where you're hanging from pull-up bars and throwing med balls with your legs and flipping plates. Like that shit's all for show. And so I feel bad for people because they got to filter through all that bullshit. And then to Alex's point, like you're watching people that are doing those crazy exercises, not to mention that they're just on sauce, they're on gear, you know, they're on testosterone. So it's like, it's super deceiving, man. It frustrates me. It pisses me off. So.
Yeah, man. I literally, we talked about how many coaches there are in there and how many like people there are in the health and fitness industry. It's so crowded that really the only way people can stand out is to do something outrageous.
You got to do crazy shit.
I think that's what it is like people are just throwing out. And I told you boys, I did a podcast on a Thursday podcast recently. At the time this is coming out, I would assume that podcast already hit, where I was just pissed off because I just watched a clip where it was like this doctor supposed to be like high up and talking about how water is like not good for you and like it's natural like tap water, filtered water form. And I'm like, what like the fuck is this guy talking about? You know, like it's just absurd. And that's why so many people are overwhelmed and frustrated and like don't know if they're doing the right thing, is because there's so much out there. And then you have all these people who are just preaching complete bullshit to try to like get views, like complete bullshit exercise. Like you said, like just the sexy thing is not going to generally get you where you want to be. It's the boring shit that we talk about on this podcast day in and day out that is going to get you where you want to be. And if you want a six pack, like it's made in the kitchen, like that is one of the best phrases is like that a six pack's made in the kitchen. You don't even need to fucking do any of that shit like at all. Like you can get a six
None.
pack. Like it's like you
None.
can literally just do compound lifts,
Yep.
keep your core tight throughout them, which you should anyway.
Yep.
And like you're if you get to a low enough body fat percentage, then you can get a six pack. And also know that like certain people aren't going to be able to necessarily get one. Like it's just it's genetic things are going to play a factor there. Where certain people also they need to get down to like 9%, 6% body fat to show abs, or other people maybe they can show at 15%. Right?
Yep.
It's really it's so dependent. So just if somebody's preaching that they can get you a six pack, it's complete fucking bullshit. Like it's not. And honestly, like also you might not want one. Like it's a lot of work to keep that, and it's not necessarily fun all the time. Like I've had it in the past, and like there's side effects, right? Like it's not like I mean you're shredded, Matt. Like maybe talk about I guess you eat a lot of food, so like you've kind of done it the right way, but like it's not all it's cracked up to be, right? When you get really low body fat.
No, dude, it's not fun. Like I just tested my program and went 16 weeks through it, and it's not fun. Like eating less food, right? Like that's literally what you're doing. You're starving you're doing a temporary starvation period to be able to shed some body fat is what you're doing. Like, but also it'd be super deceiving for me to be like, oh yeah, it's extremely easy, because it's not. It comes into sacrifice, and like me being able to have abs year round is the product of me lifting since I was 16 years old too. Right. Like, so it's not like I just fucking did, my 16-week program and then all of a sudden, have abs. It's like, no, dude, I've been doing this a long time, like years. Yeah. There's Sam. Sam's a monster.
Oh.
So this is another thing, right? Despite Sam being a great dude, very deceiving, very deceptive especially to a lot of young guys out there. I think this guy's like 20. He's like early 20s, right? Like 20, 21 maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there you go. Like look at that picture,
dude.
Look at him now, right?
Fuck.
So there's a big
4 years.
there's a big elephant in the room here, right? And so like don't let those things deceive you, right? And so you can take shortcuts, you can go that route, but there's so many health implications that you got to weigh out what's the cost of doing it, So, my advice would be.
Do you know if he talks about like steroid usage?
I haven't heard him. I've watched quite a bit of his videos.
I don't think he's claiming natural by any means, but I like what that guy talks about in his videos. Like
I do too.
He's really preaching good shit in his videos to people, which is
Totally.
really it's nice, because there's people that have a huge following that are preaching a lot of bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
He's
why I brought
one thing
him
about
up.
him. He's not going to lie to you. Like he's going to tell you the truth, but I don't think he discusses his cycle or anything like that or what he's on.
Okay. Yeah. Cause that's what, like you guys said, I love his content. I love how like raw it is. It's not like crazy edited. You can, it's literally just him in the gym, like doing his lifts and then just talking about his lifts, like eating shit like that. It's really relatable. But I guess that's where it can be dangerous if kids are like really looking up to him and being like, oh, that's like attainable.
Yeah.
And thinking that they can do it without steroids, or thinking, all right, like let me jump on some steroids because I want to get that big and I want to look like him. So like that's where
hopefully that's not it. And hopefully people just see his videos and go like, oh, I'm just going to do what Sam's doing minus the steroid part of it. Right. And like, and just eat, I know Sam talks about like if he said like I'm mandating you to get above 200 pounds if you're not already, right? Like you need to go on a bulk, right? He's like, I'm mandating you bulk. So like those things are cool, man. Like those are funny. Like he's encouraging guys to eat more food, to lift heavier weights, like to do it a specific way. Like that's great. And so I haven't seen any videos of him where he's been like publicly sharing the other side of it, but everything that I see that he shares, I think is super beneficial. Like he's a genuine guy for sure.
Yeah. And I think there probably is a lot more young people doing like steroids and TRT and all that stuff at these days because of like people that are preaching about it too.
Yeah.
Like it's there's a lot of really young people out there on YouTube that are doing steroids, talking about doing steroids, and And it's not like, I think that people, they start doing it and they forget that there's a lot of side effects that come
Mhm.
along with that. Like it's not all good. Your body can break down over time. I mean, just look at some of the big bodybuilders, right? Like some of the big time bodybuilders, and that comes from like lifting the way that they've lifted, but also the steroids I think plays a factor into that, right? Where they're just like Ronnie Coleman, for example, right? Like that guy can not even really walk anymore,
Yeah,
like, and I
that's
don't
sad,
know
man.
what that is all from, like I would imagine that there's something around with because I mean, you can't get up to what he was without taking a fuckload of steroids, right? Like guy was
Yeah,
like deadlifting like 1,000 pounds and
yeah,
like doing squats for like 800, 900 pounds, I think, for like reps, like just like absurd. I mean, this guy's a monster. But I think that people kind of take it just seeing, oh, I'm going to get huge and women are going to like me and whatever, and then they forget that there's going to be drawbacks to it, and there's also going to be things down the road that are maybe not going to be beneficial. So I would caution against it. And I think that brings us right into maybe our last topic here today on like hormone therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, all that type of stuff. And I think like just right off the bat, I have just a huge opinion on this that like you got to try replace like doing it naturally. Like if you get tested, first off, get tested. Don't just take this shit. Like don't just go in because there's gonna be clinics out there, people out there that'll just give it to you. But like make sure you try to replace it naturally. First off, like in ways that I was able to do that because I initially had my testosterone. I got it tested a while back, and it was like 200, which is at the time I was like 26, I think, when I initially. And the thing is like what you'll see when you go to the doctor, if you get tested at the doctor, is like that's within the normal reference range, right? Because their reference ranges are fucking bullshit. They're based on like the unhealthy population. That's who goes to the doctor, right? Is like, like people who are like, it's based on that unhealthy population. And I tried to like tell them, I was like, this is fucking low. Like this is way low. Cause at a certain point I was taking certifications and I knew that it's way low. Like I'm like, how? And so then I just took it into my own hands and I was like, I'm going to try to fix this naturally. And I focused. One of the biggest things I did is I changed my sleep. Like sleep, like it just, I think that's probably the main driver, but also my eating habits. I used to have habits of like the binge and restrict, and I just committed to no more restriction. I was like, even if I do fall into a binge, like based on whatever happens, I'm gonna make sure I'm eating enough because like your body needs a certain amount of calories. Stress management, another thing you could focus on if you're struggling, if you have low T, just like really just manage your stress as much as you can. Like just whatever works for you. If that's meditation, if that's going for walks, like just do whatever you can to keep that stress low. Hydration, like it's really all the basics, right? It's like all the basics that we talk about is what is needed to really just keep testosterone in a good spot. And like one of the big things as well, I think this was a huge driver of my low testosterone, is heavy alcohol consumption. That is a thing that is going to just ruin you over time. If you're binge drinking all the time, like I was, that I think that was a huge reason why I had low testosterone. And so that obviously I'm sober a little over 2.5 years now. And, that I think that was a huge thing too. But on top of that, just all those basic things that I talked about are huge things. Just don't go right into it. Like give yourself a year or longer to get it up naturally before you do that. Cause once you start taking testosterone, like you can't really go back anymore. Like you're kind of done. You got to keep taking it the rest of your life, from my understanding, at least.
Yeah, I think it definitely has its place too. If you're somebody who goes, like Alex said, go get your blood tested first. I felt myself in a position where I'm like, man, I fall asleep a lot. Like I'm super tired all the time. So I thought my testosterone was low. So I went and got my blood tested, and I came back, and the first thing the doctor said was like, man, honestly, like this conversation is going to be really boring because you're well within range on everything, like literally everything. She's like, maybe your vitamin D is a little bit high. and they asked if I was supplementing with that, and I am, because I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so it's like really dark here. Sunlight's like, not that prevalent here. So they knew I was supplementing with vitamin D, but other than that, everything was well within range. My testosterone was just shy of 800. So that told me like, okay, it's a lifestyle thing, right? Like I need to be more conscious of my sleep patterns, my habits with that. And that showed me that I wasn't deficient in anywhere. But I think a lot of people are just like, they're not getting their blood tested and they immediately want to jump the gun and like jump on TRT. And it's like, well, you might want to see where you're at first. You may not need it. And it might be like a couple lifestyle changes that could just like literally manipulate and change everything and like make the world for you. So that was my scenario. However, I do have a client, that's well over their 60s, almost 70, and they got their testosterone tested and it was 18, right? Like, so that's somebody who actually needs it, right? That's somebody who could actually benefit from it. We're working on their sleep patterns, their habits, their nutrition, their hydration, like doing all the things right? So that's somebody that's literally just deficient in that department. All of a sudden they went on TRT. One of my clients did. And, man, he's like a whole new person now. So in the best way possible. He also has the financials to be able to commit to that for pretty much the rest of his life too. Right. So that's the thing you got to take into consideration too. You can't just like take it and then stop and be done. Right. Like, so you have to, it's a commitment thing for sure, but also make sure that you need it. And then it's for you, because like Alex said, you can go to a lot of these, replacement therapy places and they'll like prescribe it for you. I got it prescribed for me and I didn't even need it. Right. Like I could have got it if I wanted to. They're like, yeah, we could give you in lower dosage. They're trying to sell you. Right. So it's very easy to get now. So
Nick,
yeah.
what does it say under side effects there? Like if you go to side effects under hormone replacement therapy, what does it say there? To the right or up top to the right?
I think, oh, never mind.
And this might show us too. Just, yeah, right there, that collapsing. I'm just curious, like kind of what it says there. Cause yeah.
Can you see it or no?
Yeah. So headaches, breast pain or tenderness,
Nausea,
unexpected vaginal bleeding or spotting, feeling sick. So this is obviously for a man. You're not going to, hopefully you don't have the unexpected vaginal bleeding or spotting. That'd be kind of tough.
Yeah.
Feeling sick, mood changes, including low mood, depression, leg cramps, mild rash, itching, diarrhea. So I mean, there's side effects of it too, right? It's not just you take it and everything's good, but if you are low and you've tried to shift naturally, then you're gonna see a lot, because like testosterone, it's such a huge driver for men, right? Especially if we're talking on that side of things. Like it's going to increase your energy. You're going to be like your client, you're going to be a whole different person. So, yeah, use it if you need to, but I would suggest really taking a long route of trying to raise it naturally before you even think about going in and doing that. Cause, I think you'll be disappointed with yourself. You're going to spend a lot more money than you need to too. But some people also are they're lazy, and they're going to take the quick fix Band-Aid route, and that's just the way that they're going to do it. But especially if you're young too, like, yeah, that's a lot. That's a long period of time to have to roll with TRT or HRT, and so that's
Is that usually like most people that get on it? I know obviously like if you're on something like that for a while, like your body can stop like producing it naturally.
yeah.
I'm assuming there's probably cases where like say it's like super low and they don't know exactly what's going on, they'll probably give replacement while they're doing natural things to try to like bring it back to normal. Do you guys get what I'm saying there?
They totally could. Like, I mean, it's just on the individual. Like, if they wanted to just pull the trigger and they're like, yeah, I want to get on it. Like, they totally could, like, immediately, in addition to improving everything else. Right. I think what Alex is saying too, and what I'd recommend is like, before you jump the gun with that, like try to do all the natural remedies first and then almost save this as like a last resort.
Yeah. Like I'm saying for a year. Like that might be longer than what most people will say, but give yourself a year.
Yeah.
And because it's not going to go up like just right away.
Right.
at least 6 months, like
How
at
long did
least
yours
every
take? Like how long did you take to like go from 200 up to like what'd you get up to? Do you know? Did you get retested?
I did get retested. I think it was in the 900s.
And then how long? That's awesome. And then how long did that time frame take for? Because you obviously
It
cut
was
out
it was
alcohol.
a
You've
few
done.
years. It was a few
Okay.
years in
Okay.
between the tests, and so
Okay.
I don't know how long how long it was before it really got up there, but it took some time. It took a while before it was, and it also I didn't get retested right away either. I I gave it some time. I gave myself a window. I was gonna do everything I could to not have to do TRT. So that was
Did
over
you
a two
test in
year
between
period.
at all?
I didn't know. And so I
Okay.
don't have any it could have been a year, it could have been 6 months,
Yeah.
like 3 months, whatever. But like I kind of when I saw that and I couldn't and I didn't get any like good information from doctors, I was like, okay, I'm gonna fix this on my own. And luckily I was going through certifications that helped me do that, and just it came down to the basics, right? It just everything really does. If you stick to the basic stuff that we talk about with sleep and stress management and food quality and eating enough and just moving and exercising, all that stuff,
Staying away from the
you're going to be able
bullshit in
to.
our world.
What was that?
Staying away from like a lot of the bullshit that's in our like food and
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
environment.
exactly. But also like being flexible with it too. I think it's easy to go the really strict route. And
Yeah.
I just picked up some fucking ice cream at Walgreens when I was like, it's just like that's what I get, peppermint bark ice cream. I was like, this sounds
Oh,
really really good.
well,
And
seasonal
that's what I do
action.
a few times a week. I grab some ice cream. If I'm on the golf course, I might get a Snickers bar. But then when I'm eating
Oh yeah.
meals, I try to eat quality stuff. Stick
Yeah.
with like chicken, veggies, rice, potatoes, different stuff like that. I mean, I think that's kind of it's just a lot. You're gonna like if you. I've went way too far the other way too, where it's like, oh, I need to be perfect, and then it's like you have anything that's not perfect, and you just go nuts on it. So I think that really mixing those things in that you enjoy. But for me, I just know I can't keep it in the house. I've
Same.
put my hand on the hot stove way too many times, and and that shit's gone right away. And
Same.
so I just don't keep any of that shit in the house. I go out and get it.
Well, cool. Let's. You guys got anything else to add to that? There's some awesome topics today.
Oh man, that was good. That was good, Nick. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, we can kind of make this just a monthly thing where we have like one episode a month where we do some current events topics, or we pop up. Maybe if we find some videos that we want to dive into, we could actually just pop them up on the screen. We kind of queue up videos that are like controversial, pop them up on the screen, and then kind of talk about those things too. I think that would be cool. Hopefully, everybody enjoys this, and I appreciate you guys. If you do enjoy this, share it with somebody, like, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And we hope you have a good rest of the day, a good rest of the week, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Peace.
See ya.